this faith without works is dead, I thought faith was an automatic. Like if I go to church, I got a relationship with God. God know me, I know God. I thought that meant I had faith. It didn't. Faith is all about the actions that I take. And I hope this helps some of you guys.
Optimal health is not a privilege, it's a right. However, unfortunately, the overwhelming majority of health challenges today can be attributed to lifestyle. This includes our physical activity, the quality of our relationships, stress, purpose and fulfillment, and of course, our diet. But what if there was an alternative? What if we could prevent and combat these health challenges with lifestyle changes before pills and procedures? You are listening to the Plant Protocol podcast with yours truly, plant-based health and business coach, and now the forever voice in your head, Lisa A. Smith. It's time to come get this health.
I learned early on, like many of you, the concept of faith without works is dead. And this becomes increasingly more important as a person of color. It becomes even more important as a woman of color. And it becomes even more important if you're a member of some other type of marginalized group. And so this concept of faith without works is dead. People of color, marginalized communities, we know this all too well, right? We've also, many of us have been taught that in order to get what others have, we have to work 10 times harder. We've also been taught that in order to be seen as credible, in order to be seen as worthy of an opportunity, we have to work 10 times harder. And so this concept of faith without works is dead has been embedded into a lot of us, and many of us have went out of our way to make sure we've mastered the works part. If you're a Black person, if you're a marginalized person, if you're a person of color, faith without works to us means that we have to go hard on the works part. And that's what many of us have done. That's what many of us do. Me included. Like, I'm not excluded from this at all. So here's what happened to me. I really mastered the hard work stuff over my career. I've been in business 10 years and hard work, and became a point where I had exhausted myself from the hard work piece. And now it was time to master the faith piece. Okay. And so what happened was I decided to start learning what it meant to have faith. And so I started developing a relationship with God, and I started getting spiritual so I can better understand what it means to have faith. And as I studied more and more, I started learning that faith is not just about a relationship with God. I started learning that faith is way more than just going to church. Faith is much more than knowing scriptures. Like it started being revealed to me that faith is way more than being spiritual, knowing scriptures, having a relationship with God. And so lo and behold, I discovered that it doesn't matter how hard I work. At some point, I'm going to have to activate the faith to really get as far as I want to go, especially if I want to live this life of radical obedience that I promote, that I teach, and that I stand by, right? When I started, I thought, and I don't know, many of you might be like this too, but I used to really think that faith was just all about like, no, I got a relationship with God. It's what it is. It's all about just making sure I go to church, making sure I tithe, making sure I honor, God's word. That's what I thought it was all about. But then I got into radical obedience. And for those of you who it's your first time here, let me tell you guys how I define radical obedience so you'll understand. Radical obedience is being on assignment and doing what you're called to do despite the presence of fear and uncertainty, okay? So in order to live a life of radical obedience, meaning you're going to do what you've been called to do, what you intuitively know you're supposed to be doing despite the presence of fear and uncertainty, in order to do that, it actually turns out requires way more faith than hard work. This is very difficult conceptually to understand if you are somebody who have mastered hard work. Did you guys also, like if you've ever heard the faith without works is dead, did you automatically think, I got faith, like that's the easy part? Like, did anybody else ever think that? Like, faith, yeah, I talk to God, I pray regularly. I pray for myself, I pray for others. I don't just ask God for stuff. I be in gratitude. How many of y'all was doing all the right things, thinking, got the faith part. I just got to make sure I master the hard works part. Now, how many of us, no matter how hard we work, have ever been at a place where you feel like I'm working hard, I'm doing everything I'm supposed to do. What am I missing? I can't work any harder, God. Like, I've pushed myself. I've exhausted myself. I'm burning myself out. Like, I'm giving. I'm showing up. No days off. Work, right? So here's what happened to me, y'all. I finally realized one day, and this was just a couple of years ago, that the faith without works part, I had mastered the wrong part of the equation. I had done so well with mastering the works. And what I thought was faith was not faith at all. I learned that just a relationship with God was not enough. I learned that faith was an action, and I actually had to do some things to demonstrate faith. And so I'm going to share with you guys what those 3 things are right now, because I used to just think faith was a belief. Like, yeah, I'm optimistic. I believe things are going to work out. I try and stay in a positive mindset, all of those things. It turns out the way faith works is it's evident through action. So let me break it down for you guys. There's 3 ways when I kind of think about my life and all the things I've done in my career, but also personally, and all of the chances I've taken. I realized there are 3 major things that I do on a regular basis to prove that I actually have faith, to exemplify the strength of my faith muscle. And I hope this helps some of you guys. So here's number 1. The very first way that I demonstrate my faith, because when you live a life of radical obedience, it takes way more faith than it does hard work. I need you guys to understand, like, obedience takes way more faith than it does hard work. So if you master working hard for everything you can and everything you have, it's going to be really uncomfortable to live a life of radical obedience because it requires more faith than hard work. And you've mastered hard work, and you thought you mastered faith until you have to do these 3 things that I'm about to share with you. The first way that I demonstrate faith in my life is by making decisions. Decision-making is an act of faith. And suffice it to say that indecisiveness, the unwillingness to make a decision, is evidence of a lack of faith. So let me explain. I remember years ago, one of my first business coaches, I hired her to help with our business and help take our business to the next level. And she was like, okay, Lisa, you got to raise your prices. Your prices are too low for what y'all offer. You've been in the game for years. You got receipt. Like, you got to raise your prices. The price got to go up. And she wasn't suggesting like a $100 price raise. She's like 2-3x the price, right? Now, if anybody else in here is an entrepreneur and you have been accustomed to selling your audience something at a certain price point and they've become accustomed to that, raising your prices can be very scary, because you're like, nobody's going to buy. How are people going to perceive me? What's going to happen to our business? I'm going to be homeless by Tuesday, okay? So I got the directive from my coach, somebody I trusted, to raise our prices in business, right? And what I could have done, which a lot of people do, is I could have resisted that directive, and I could have just made the decision to not make a decision and stay in a gray area and operate from a place of fear. But I knew that our business had to go to the next level. I knew we had to generate more revenue. I knew we needed a team and we needed to be able to pay people. We needed more cash flow. And so making the decision to raise our prices was an act of faith. Decisiveness is an act of faith. A lot of times when we live our lives and we refuse to make decisions, or when we try and outsource our decisions to other people so that we won't be responsible for the outcome, it can be evidence of a lack of faith. How many of you guys are resisting making decisions because you're afraid of the outcome, right? You don't believe that things are going to work out. I had to have faith that the business wasn't going to go under, that people weren't going to throw me under the bus or think bad of me because we raised our prices. I had to have faith as a CEO. I had to have faith in our product and our service and our programs that we provided, right? I had to have faith in my community that they saw the value in what we were selling. I had to have faith in myself to be able to sell at a higher price point. Like raising our prices was an act of faith. Decision making is an act of faith. When you, like I have somebody in my ecosystem and she's been in an unhappy marriage for a very, very long time. And she's been telling me about it over the years. She's one of our students in one of our programs. And I've always wondered, I didn't want to like really say, because I'm like, I don't want to get too much in her business, but I'm like, well, if you're so unhappy, why aren't you making a decision? And the decision doesn't have to be to leave, but it's like, make the decision to have a difficult conversation and maybe suggest ways you can work on it. Like you're just waking up every day and staying in this place of indecisiveness and staying unhappy. Maybe because you're afraid to be alone. Maybe you are worried about what people will think if your marriage ends and how that looks. Maybe you see it as failure and you're worried about people pleasing. But the lack of decision making. So finally, she actually recently emailed me and she's like, my husband asked for a divorce. And I'm like, oh, he made a decision, right? And I was wondering if that was relief for her because maybe she didn't have the courage to make a decision. And so he finally made it. Decision making is an act of faith. I believe that the decision I'm making is going to be in the best interest of me and everybody else involved. And I believe things are going to work out the way they're supposed to work out. But when we don't make decisions in our life and we stay in circumstances way past their expiration date, when we stay in circumstances that don't serve us, when we stay in circumstances that are not ideal, when we stay in circumstances where we're unhappy, unhealthy, and unfulfilled, because we're refusing to make a decision. It's not because there's no way out of the circumstance. It's just because we're refusing to make a decision. I need you guys to think about that. A lot of us, we complain about being chronically stressed. We complain about being overwhelmed. We complain about being unfulfilled. But here's the crazy part about it. The exit strategy is just a decision. I want you guys to say, how many of you guys have circumstances in your life that are not ideal? And it's not that I can't get out of this circumstance. It's that I'm refusing to make a decision to get out of this circumstance. The lack of decision making can be a lack of faith. So for me, that's the very first way that I exercise faith in my life. As soon as a circumstance becomes uncomfortable or unbearable, I realize I have to make a decision. And a lot of times when I find that I am delaying making decisions is because I don't have faith in how the thing is going to turn out. I'm not exercising faith. So that's number one. The unwillingness to make a decision typically means there's a lack of faith somewhere. Very rarely are there circumstances that we're in which there's no out. Like you actually have more exit doors than you have enter doors into your circumstance. Every door is a decision you can make. And because you're refusing to pick a door, you're refusing to make a decision, you just staying in that circumstance because you're worried about what's going to happen on the other side of that. Evidence of a lack of faith. Y'all got number one? That's number one. First way I exercise my faith is by making decisions and not taking forever to make decisions. Like my coach told us to raise our prices. We raised our prices because we needed to get evidence that the thing we were most worried about, that people weren't going to buy, was not going to happen. So you have to make a decision. You have to start making decisions. Okay, so that's number one.
When I first started investing in coaching years ago, the thing I fell in love with first and foremost were the systems. I thoroughly enjoyed the feeling of security I got from being able to plug into a system. And ever since I had that coaching experience, I vowed to provide that same experience for our clients in our community here at the Plant Protocol. The Plant Protocol 30-Day Vegan Salt, Oil, and Sugar-Free Challenge is approaching extremely fast. And for the past 3 months, we've been hosting masterclasses in preparation for that. And in December, we're going to do it again. But December's masterclass is for our VIPs and our Ultra VIPs only. And on our December 18th masterclass, I'm super excited to share the system with our challengers for how to have the best success in our 30-Day Vegan Challenge. I absolutely love the idea of not having to make all the decisions for myself. I love the idea of being able to feel confident in somebody leading me and guiding me through the process that I was investing in. Coaching and community works wonders when you are being led by people who have been there and done that. So, if you are currently registered for our next 30-day vegan, salt, oil, and sugar-free challenge, and you are not a VIP, I want to invite you to move up to the front row because this final prep masterclass that we're hosting on December 18th is for you if you want a system. You know, a 30-day challenge sounds pretty basic. It sounds like you kind of understand what you'll need to do. I'll need to stop eating animal products. I'll need to monitor all the other things, the salt, the oil, the sugar. But I promise you, there's still a system. And I looked at the results from our last challenge, and I put together a framework that I believe will assist you in achieving your health goals and will surpass probably what you even imagined was possible. So listen, if you're interested in being in this VIP only masterclass for our 30-day salt, oil, and sugar-free vegan challenge, then I want you to click the link in the show notes and get upgraded and move up to the front row. I promise you, there's nothing like a system. It surpasses DIY every single time. I'll see you in the front.
The second way that I exercise faith, and this is a big one, especially for women, delegation. So number one, make decisions. Number two, delegation. So a lot of us, especially women of color, we are exhausted for a variety of reasons. We are exhausted. We are tired. We are burnt out. We are overwhelmed, a lot of us. And some of it is our fault. I know for me, my seasons of overwhelm, my seasons of burnout have been partially due to my unwillingness to delegate. Now, the reason we don't delegate is because we don't have faith in the people we delegating to. We don't have faith in anyone to execute the way we do. We only have faith in how we do it. Like, I got to put my hands on it. I have to be the one to get it done because nobody's going to do it like me. And let me tell you the truth. You're absolutely right. No one is going to do it like you. No one. And then the question becomes, well, what's so wrong with that? We're so married to our way of doing things. We're so married to our processes and our protocols that our unwillingness to delegate because we don't believe in anyone else's ability to execute can be evidence of a lack of faith. When I had to hire other coaches to work in our coaching programs because it became too much for me, I had to have faith in the person that I selected. I had to, because how are you going to grow as a company and you're the only one that can do the job? How, Sway? Like, I had to be honest with myself, like, Lisa, you created the program, you created the curriculum. Like, yes, absolutely. Everybody knows you. But at some point, if you really are committed to the assignment of extending the healthy life expectancy for people of color, baby, you got to delegate. You can't do all the things forever. You have to have faith in other humans. You have to have faith in your ability to train them. You have to have faith in your ability to lead them. You have to have faith in the programs and the curriculums you created that they will still deliver the result if you're not there every time. Delegation for me became an extreme act of faith. I don't know if anybody else can relate to this, even personally, right? When you're hiring people to do things, when you're asking your partner to assist with things, like, delegation is an act of faith. It's an act of faith. It's saying, you know what? I am recognizing that my hands can't be on and in everything. I am also honoring the fact that nobody would do it exactly the way I do it. And I am also willing to be okay with that, because a lot of us are overwhelmed and overextended because of our unwillingness to delegate. Or here's another reason that I've heard about unwillingness to delegate, which is the perception that other people have of you when you delegate and outsource certain tasks, right? It's like, oh, in some subcultures in our community, it's like getting a nanny or getting somebody to clean your house or getting somebody to cook your food. Like, no, that's my job as the mom, or that's my job as the woman of the house, or whatever. So I've heard this from a lot of my clients as a coach. Delegating, like, for example, I have a lot of clients who are caregivers to older parents, and they feel a certain type of way seeking out help, seeking an in-home nurse or something, because you're like, I'm supposed to take care of my mom. I'm supposed to take care of my dad. I'm supposed to take care of the elders in my family. And so there's this underlying belief about who I am if I delegate this task, although this task is wearing me the heck out. And so there's a lack of faith or there's a lack of belief. And so we don't delegate, right? Delegation is an act of faith. Faith is a practice. It is not just a relationship with God. It is things that you demonstrate faith by what you do and don't do every single day. So number one was decision making. The thing that might be standing between you and where you really want to be in your health, in your business, in your professional, in your relationships could be a decision. And your unwillingness to make a decision can be a lack of faith. The thing that could be standing between you and your freedom and your rest and your respite is your unwillingness to delegate. Delegation is an act of faith because you got to believe in something and somebody's other than yourself to execute. So whether it's delegation in your personal life or it's delegation in your professional life, where are you not delegating because you are unwilling to have faith in other people and systems? I sent an email out a couple years ago to my audience telling them the importance of paying for peace. Like, it's okay. Like, you don't have to do everything. Like, some of y'all stitching clothes from scratch. Like, it's too much. You know, I teach plant-based nutrition. So people ask me all the time about like gardening and growing your own food. And I proudly tell them, heck to the no. Not only do I have no resources for you for how to grow your own food, I have no interest. Matter of fact, when you find the people who are growing their own food, send them my way because I will pay them for the food they've grown. I'm not doing it. Now, some of you guys got green thumbs. You are, hydroponic. You're gardeners. You're big advocates in growing your own food. And I'm big advocates in somebody else growing my food. It's okay. I delegate my food growth. You feel me? Like, I'm not doing it. And I'm not going to make anybody make me feel guilty just because I'm a plant-based vegan and conscious about the earth and the environment and the quality of food. I'm not going to let anybody make me feel guilty about me not having a desire to grow my own food. I live in concrete jungles, and I love living in concrete jungles. I don't want to live in the suburbs. I don't want to live on a farm. I don't want to grow herbs on my patio. I'm not interested. I'm going to delegate it. Okay? Some of y'all are fire with it. Matter of fact, DM me. I'll buy your herbs. But I ain't doing it. Get somebody else to do it. And I need you to feel the same way about the things that you're not interested in or the things that are too difficult or you don't have interest in learning. Like, I'm not interested, right? And so delegation, pay for peace. Like, it's okay. It's safe. Next, final one, number 3. This third one that I'm about to tell y'all how I practice faith, this is the big one, okay? This was the hardest one for me to do because I'm like, now, wait a minute now, okay? Practicing faith, if you notice, the first 2 were all things that I could do, right? I can make a decision, I can delegate. However, number 3, and I'm still mastering number 3, y'all. The final way I exercise and practice faith is do nothing. Even saying it sting a little bit. Woo. Well, you're somebody who, number 1, has mastered hard work. When you're somebody who feels productive when boxes are getting checked off, when, tasks are getting crossed off the list, when finish lines are being crossed. If you're somebody who get a dopamine hit off of execution like I do, doing nothing is hard AF, but it is the biggest by far act of faith. Because there are some times and there are some situations and there are some circumstances in which you've actually done all that you can do, but you want to keep tinkering with something. You want to make a phone call because, things ain't moving fast enough for you, right? And so if you are a person who you're a task person and you are an execution person and you like results and you like to get things done, doing nothing is the hardest thing to do. But there are some circumstances that requires you to sit back and wait. There are some circumstances that requires you to be quiet. There are some circumstances that requires you to take your hands off of it. Doing nothing has been the most challenging act of faith that I have personally ever practiced. I was out to tea with a good friend the other day, and she was like, I don't know how. She just moved into a new place and she's trying to put some stuff together. And she's like, I don't know how I'm about to do this. She said, I looked at the whole circumstance and she was like, Lisa, I physically did like this. I just put my hands up and leaned back. And I'm like, I don't know. She's like, 2 days later, I got a call from a client who was like, I want to pay you $5,000 for your next, for blah, blah, blah. I was like, do nothing. Sometimes you just got to do nothing. Like, I know you want to try and figure it out, but sometimes you just got to do nothing and wait and be still. It's crazy. I meditate every day, right? Let's top up this tea, y'all. I meditate every day. And meditation is really about stillness. It's about being still. It's about being in the moment. It's about present moment awareness. It's about being super conscious of what's happening around you and within you. But it's a practice in that stillness, right? And the ability to do nothing. Like, I could do it during meditation for 10, 15, 20 minutes, say less. But God, you want me to just sit back and wait until you're ready to show me how this business is going to go to the next level? You just want me to keep doing what I'm doing and don't try and do anything extra? You don't want me to try and run out here and solve all the problems? You just like, I keep putting my hands on, you ever keep putting your hands on something and you keep messing it up every time you put your hands on it, but you don't feel right not doing nothing. So you got to keep putting your hands on it. But every time you put your hands on it, you keep doing nothing is the hardest act of faith. Hands up, lean back. You know what I'm saying? Like, that is the hardest act of faith. So those are the 3 ways that I've practiced faith. It's like decision making. Some of us, we're in a state of overwhelm, unrest, chronic stress because we're refusing to make decisions. We're staying in the gray area because we don't want to be responsible for the outcomes of our decision making. So some of you guys need to start making decisions and quickly. All this delayed decision making is prolonging your undesirable circumstance. And then number 2, delegation. We have mastered hard work, and some of us have mastered hard work, which means we've mastered what we're good at, right? And when we get good at stuff, it's really hard to allow somebody else to come in and do it or assist us with it. And so delegation becomes extremely difficult when you have mastery, okay? And then number 3 is do nothing. The willingness to stop and be still, the willingness to wait on God's timing, the willingness to sit back and allow things to flow to you. So again, this faith without works is dead. I thought faith was an automatic. Like, if I go to church, I got a relationship with God. God know me, I know God. I thought that meant I had faith. It didn't. Faith is all about the actions that I take to prove I have faith. Like you got faith? Let me see you prove it. Go make a tough decision. You got faith? Stop doing everything after your team has offered to do more for you. Give it to them. Surrender to the people who have been begging to help you. Surrender to your partner. Surrender to your friends and family. Surrender to the strangers who want to grow food. You know what I'm saying? Like, surrender, delegate. And then finally, be still. These are all acts of faith. Faith is not the scriptures you quote. It is not, the stories you tell yourself. It is evidence through your actions. Like, oh, you got faith? Then start the business. You swear you got faith, start writing the book. But then don't just write the book. Tell people it exists and try and sell it to them. Because you said you have faith. Faith is not evidence in what you're doing, right? Faith is a do. It's not a belief. It's not just a belief. It's a do. You say you got faith? Be still. Be still, you little busybody. I dare you to be still this week. If I don't work every day, the whole business and the whole world is going to fall apart. Oh, okay. Did you know that taking an off day is an act of faith? Did you know taking a weekend off is an act of faith? Be still. See what happens. Oh my God. Things still worked out when I was still. Things still worked out when I didn't check my email for 3 days. Like, things still worked out when I decided to pour into myself. Be still and see what happens. So that's it for me, guys. I hope this was helpful for y'all today. Listen, I apologize for my low energy today, but I wasn't about to cheat y'all out of a good time. Okay. We'll be back next week, swinging from the chandeliers again. And hopefully not as nasally, but when I got this divine download, y'all want to know where today's talk came from? Me being still, it came right in the midst of a meditation. I was being still and God said, go tell them this. Go tell them how to practice faith, because they think it's just having a relationship with me, but they still not taking chances on themselves. So they're not exercising faith. So I hope this was helpful for somebody. If you missed last week's episode, I was on a suitability call with somebody yesterday. She applied for one of our coaching programs, Farm to Table. And she was like, your last live where you talked about why we should be grateful for being overweight. She said, I sent that to all my friends. I said, you better send it to your friends. So if y'all missed last week's episode where I talked about the importance of being grateful for being unwell, if this is your first time, I'm telling you right now, I'm not giving the energy I normally give because I'm about an 8 out of 12 today. So I need y'all to go listen to that last one so that you'll know you can come back next week and get good energy. So go listen to last week. It's called Here's Why I Was Grateful for Being Overweight and You Should Be Too. It was dope. Fire. Okay. The thing I need you guys to do, if you know that your health is one place that you're being disobedient, when you're not making decisions about your health and you're just kind of staying in this gray area, is going to be joining our 30-day vegan, salt, oil, and sugar-free challenge. It's a 30-day challenge. We start January 1st. We got about 1,030 people registered, 1,027 or something like that. So you might as well be 1,028. Make a decision. Just make a decision to give that mess up for a minimum of 30 days. So rock out with us January 1st through January 31st. Okay, it's been a pleasure, y'all. I'm going to get ready for this meeting, and I will talk to y'all soon. Bye, y'all.
You tuned in today because, like me, you refuse to let your good become the enemy of your great. You're not settling for good health when optimal is well within reach. If you're ready to go from good to great, visit lisaangelsmith.com to learn more about our plant-based health coaching program, Farm to Table, and our plant-based business accelerator and coaching certification. But before you go, if you enjoyed what you heard today, please consider rating and reviewing this podcast. Until next time, remember, radical obedience is still undefeated. Stay obedient.